It's April 2020 and we're still in lockdown. However, I do need to make an essential journey which involves country roads. So I thought, why not put some cameras in the car and give you a lesson on country roads. The video may not be as smooth as usual because I'm not going to be able to cut and redo things, because I only really get one take at this because I can't stay outside driving around making a video. I'm just literally driving somewhere and then driving back. So hopefully I can get it right. Before I get going, I'm going to talk about speed. There's a very simple rule you need to know in the UK, and that is if there are no street lamps, the speed limit is national, which is 60 miles an hour for a car on a single carriageway. If there are street lamps, then the speed limit is 30. That is the law. It's not just a rule of thumb, but that is actually the law. If it's different to that, there has to be signs telling you it's different. So if there's no street lamps and it's a 40 limit, there must be signs telling you that it's 40. Please don't take the speed limit as a target. Think of it more as freedom. And what I mean by that is quite often my customers will say, why on earth is this road a 60-mile-an-hour limit when it's narrow and bendy, and if someone comes the other way, we're going to practically have to stop to get past? That's not because you're supposed to go 60 wherever it says 60. That's just saying drive sensibly. The country's speed limit is 60, which means throughout the country on a single carriageway, a car must not go more than 60. You should decide how fast you go up to that limit based on the environment, like how wide the road is, the road surface, mud, if it's wet, icy, you know what I mean. This is actually a point of contention for myself because I have found that different examiners consider speeds differently. What am I trying to say? What I'm trying to say is, for one examiner, what is fast is slow to another examiner. And that's not only the case with examiners. Examiners are people, and people are very much the same. You probably know someone who drives really, really fast and they're like, I'm not going fast, this is slow. And you're sitting there thinking, trying to keep yourself together. And you could be with someone else who drives really slowly and they think they're going plenty quick enough, and you're looking out the window thinking, was that a tortoise that just passed us? As a result, I've had someone fail their driving test for doing a speed down the road, which was considered to be too slow, and somebody else does that exact same speed down the same road with a different examiner, doesn't even get a minor. Now, this hasn't just happened once, this happens quite a lot. There's quite a disparity there, which is why it's a point of contention for me, because it's like, how fast do you want us to make people go? So what I do is I just get people to drive at what I consider is safe, and more importantly, what they consider is safe and what you consider is safe. Don't drive faster than you can handle, because then you will be dangerous. If you're going faster than you can handle, well, you can't handle it. Something bad's going to happen. Let yourself grow. Drive at a speed that you feel comfortable at, and with practice you will find you will be able to get faster as you get more confident and more experienced. Try not to fall into a rut where you're driving quite slowly and your instructor's allowing you to go slow, because your instructor understands that, well, you haven't got huge amounts of skill yet. You can't go fast down this road, you're gonna be slower. But try to push yourself a little bit. Don't just go, oh, I did 25 miles an hour down this road last time, that'll be okay this time. If you feel like you can go a little bit quicker, go for it. Just don't push yourself too far. Fortunately, there is like a middle ground, a medium speed, where most of the examiners will pass my customers. Just getting my customers to stay within that's quite hard. Most people find it too fast because it is fast and it feels fast on what is quite an unsafe road. 60% of deaths happen on these roads after all. And finally, just before I get going, I want to explain something that most people get wrong, or most pupils do wrong, and that is this. When they see a problem, they steer. They steer to try and avoid the problem. That's what a learner does. That doesn't help you be more safe. That just means you go from being too close to one object to probably being too close to another object and possibly hitting things or bits of tree on the left. What a driver does when there's a problem on the road, and what I mean by problem is a narrow gap, an oncoming truck or something, is they slow down. And what's good about slowing down is it gives you more time. So it gives you more time to find the widest bit of the road to get past each other, or maybe even stop if you can't get through. But it also means you're safer, because now you've taken away that speed. There's no reason for a collision to happen. You can stop if you want to quite easily. So let's get started then. The route that I'm going to take is actually part of one of the test routes in Colchester. I'm going a bit further than the test route, but it's one of the most likely roads you're going to get if you're going to do country roads. It's quite a tricky one because it's quite narrow with lots of concealed entrances. White and black arrows, these normally mean it's a sharp bend, so be very careful if you see those. Do slow down and take care. This is very narrow here, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to slow down. She's gone down to second gear now, very slow now, 10 miles an hour, and I'm going to speed up again now I can get further from the hedge, and I'm going to slow down a little bit again when I'm near the hedge. If I'm near the hedge, I'm going to be slow. I'm trying to maintain 1 meter from the left. I don't want to be too near the edge of the road where the road is crumbling away. Sometimes you may feel that you're slightly in the middle of the road. That's fine. I don't need to be here, it's wide enough, but there are plenty of places where you do need to be a little bit in the middle. Just be very careful on bends and slow down just in case someone's coming the other way. Lots of country roads aren't quite wide enough for 2 cars, and when you meet an oncoming car, you have to get very close to the left-hand side or to the hedge or the wall, whatever it is, to avoid the oncoming car. But you don't want to stay there all the time because you're at risk of hitting what's on the left otherwise. It's another common problem most learner drivers have, is they stay too much to the left. They try to half a road, which is not meant to be halved. So this is a national speed limit now. We went past the sign earlier. I'll try and show you next time. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get the maximum I can out of 60 without being scary, basically. And at the moment, that's 33. On this bend, I'm doing about 30 something miles an hour because I couldn't see very far around it. But now I can speed up a little bit because it's further. Now I've got to slow down again because it's less far. And what I mean by further or less far is how far I can see. And that's how fast you should drive. You should always be able to stop within the distance you can see to be clear. At the moment, I can see really quite far, so I'm in the 40s. I don't think it's really necessary to do much more than what I'm doing at the moment, about 48 miles an hour, because there is a bend up ahead. It's not that wide. It's wide enough for me and the oncoming car without having to slow down too much. But if there was a bigger vehicle coming the other way, I might want to get the speed a bit lower and get over to the left a little bit more. Lovely long straight now. This is where I can actually make a little bit more progress. Got up into the 50s there, and now I'm starting to slow down so I can see a big 30 painted on the road. Even though there's no street lamps, this is 30 now because it's a built up area. So there's going to be regular reminder signs telling me it's 30. The big speed limit signs are speed limit changes, and the little ones are reminders. So these 30s that are in front of us now are small because they're to remind me that this is a 30 limit. If it was a big one, it would have meant that it only just changed to 30. As it's a little one, you know it's been 30 for a little while. That is a nasty bend. It's not very wide here. So although it's a 30 limit, I'm actually only doing 20 miles an hour. And look how narrow this is now. This has really pinched, and there's no warning sign of that there. If a big vehicle was coming the other way, I would have stopped and let them through first. I wouldn't have gone 2 at a time there with a large vehicle. With a normal sized vehicle, it's hard enough, let alone a truck. Person walking in the road now, this is a good opportunity, a good example of what you should do. Make sure you give them enough room to fall over. Now they've made it very easy for me. They've stopped to let me pass, which is much easier. So if I needed to stop, I could easily stop. If a car was coming the other way, I wouldn't have squeezed past them. I would have stopped before them like I would do a parked car, let the oncoming car go past, and then I would have gone round them, giving them about 2 meters if you can. Plenty of places on this road where it's wider, like now, easy for 2 cars, and then here where it's narrow. I don't know if you can see that, but this bit here I'm just going through now, that's a bit of a pinch point with a nasty curb sticking out that you don't want to hit, and it gets really wide again afterwards, and then it gets more narrow again. And that's why a lot of my pupils struggle with this road, because it just keeps changing and they have to be very aware of what's coming the other way, because sometimes a car coming the other way is not a problem at all, but other times it's a big problem. And you do get buses down here and trucks regularly, because there's actually a quarry further back there. You get an awful lot of trucks come through. I'm doing 30 now because it's really easy to do 30 on this road. And you've got the big signs now that say 40, which means it's changing from 30 to 40. Quite an easy road here, bit wider than the other one, and very straight as well. I can really see it's safe to pick the speed up, and I'm already doing nearly 40 miles now. I'm going to slow down for this bend a little bit because I can't see around the bend, and I was doing nearly 40 there in 5th gear, but now I've come down to about 30 in 4th gear because I can't see as far, and if someone's coming the other way, I want to be able to stop within that distance so I can see. Now I can speed up again because I can see far. Bit narrow here, so I'll slow down, move over a bit. Now I'll speed up again. I'm in a national speed limit again, so I'm accelerating at a nice rate, not so fast that I'm pushing myself back in the seat, but I am picking up the speed. Numbers are increasing. I've got to 45 miles an hour now. I'm not going to bother doing all this windy bit. I'll just go straight through this bit. I can see no one's coming. There's no point putting myself nearer the hedge than I need to be. Now I'm slowing down before the bend, which is really important. Coming into a 30 now as well. Always slow down before bends. Don't slow down on bends, because your car is less stable when you're steering, and it's less able to slow you down when you're steering. So in a 30 now, coming up to a national. Here's a national speed limit sign. It's that white disc with the black stripe. So now I'm allowed up to 60 again. And this is a good road. This is a bit wider than the other ones. It's a proper main road, this one. I should be able to easily reach 60 in most of this road. I'm already nearly there. 56 miles an hour, 58. I don't even need to slow down for this bend. I can see really far. I can easily stop within the distance I can see to be clear if I needed to. Still doing nearly 60. Very easy now. It's just a case of looking forwards, keeping a good position. I want to keep the middle of the car on the black stripe. It says slow on the road there, and there's a bend, so I am slowing down. I've gone from 60 to about 40, nice and gently. Doing this bend at about 40. Got the black and white arrow telling me there's a sharp bend to the right. That really helps at night time. I can see during the day that that's a tighter bend, and a really long straight again where I can pick up my speed. If you're struggling with position, that very clear black stripe you can see in our lane, you want to feel like your left leg is on top of that. If your left leg's on top of that, then your wheels are in the lighter coloured stripes either side of that black stripe. Sharp bend sign here on the left, reduce speed now. It says slow again on the road twice. Whenever it says slow on the road, that really should say hazard. It just means there's a hazard coming up. It could be a bend, it could be a concealed entrance. Big signs again for 40, meaning it's changing to 40, so I make sure I'm within 40 miles an hour. It says concealed entrance on the left there, and this is where someone could be pulling out of their driveway here. Does happen there sometimes. This used to be all 60. They just made this section 40 because of that, I believe, and the junction. It was quite a dangerous little bit of road. Back to a national, the white and black sign. And now I can speed up again. It's a national speed limit, lovely long straight. Still in 6th gear. See how the numbers are just gradually increasing. They're not accelerating at a rapid rate, just gradually making their way up to 60, but they are getting there. They're not staying at 45, they're not staying at 50, they are making their way up to 60. Coming onto the Strood now, which is how you get to Mersey in Essex. It's basically just like a raised bit of ground with a road on top of it that gets flooded sometimes when the tide is high. I think they like to leave it like that and not make it higher, because when it's flooded it makes it technically an island. I used to live here. I think that's stupid. I think you just build a proper bridge. Right, 40 miles an hour now, down to 40. Black and white sign again to say it's a sharp bend. Gone down 2 gears from 6th to 4th because I'm down to 30 now. Did all the braking before the bend and then accelerated through the bend for better stability. On your driving test, if you went a couple of miles an hour over the speed limit, as long as you're not persistently doing it and staying there, you're not going to fail your driving test for that. And the big sign for the 30, welcome to West Mersey. So I make sure that's 30 or less as before I pass that sign. And that's the important thing. You must be below that limit before you pass the sign. So that was a short journey, only 7 miles, on my way back now. Something else I want to mention is you want to keep it left when you go around right-hand bends. I mean, there's a bend up here. Try not to turn too early. Try and get on the bend before you steer and go around the bend on the outside of it. That gives oncoming cars plenty of room to come through. A common problem for new drivers is they turn too early for everything, meaning on left-hand turns like I've got now, they get very close to the curb, sometimes going to hit the curb and I have to take the wheel, or on right-hand turns, they end up in the middle of the road near oncoming cars. Now a sharp bend coming up, and I can tell it's sharp, so I can see how the road stretches to the left. So I'm slowing down again in a straight line, down a couple of gears, off the brake before the bend, back to the gas to power through the bend. Got a 60 sign or a national speed limit sign. Lovely long straight road, nice and wide, plenty wide enough for me and an oncoming vehicle. I should be able to do 60 down here with relative ease. If you didn't reach 60 on a road like this in your test, I very much doubt that would be a minor. If you did 50, you should be all right. If you did 40 all the way down here, I should imagine most examiners would be giving you minor or a minor mark for that. And if you consistently did that in various similar situations, those minors would tot up and eventually would become a fail. If you did 30 all the way down that road, that'd probably just be an outright fail straight away. Sometimes you have temporary lights like I have here. Make sure you stop before the red sign if it goes red. I've got time to stop, so I will stop. Another national sign. It's a 40 limit at the moment. Can accelerate a little bit. It's a bend, but I can see far into this bend, so I don't have to slow down that much. It's not so sharp that the car's going to struggle to go around it, so I can continue accelerating. I think I can do quite easily 60 miles an hour all the way along this bit, so I can see really far. If you're struggling to judge how sharp a bend is, look at the trees. Sometimes if you look at the trees, you can see where the trees go, like I did approaching the Strood earlier. The Strood is that fake like bridge that I went over, where I could see the fence all the way off to the left. If you can see the trees go all the way to the left, that's a good clue that is a sharp left-hand bend. Also, of course, the black and white arrows, that's a good clue that is a sharp bend. As I can see now to the right, I can see the trees to the right, I can see how far it is to the right, and that gives me a good idea of how sharp that bend is. It gets a bit tighter here at the end. That can catch people out sometimes. With experience, you get better at noticing those things and judging how sharp the bends are. Can't see as far on this bend, so I'll just slow a little bit, but it's by no means a slow bend. I just can't quite do 60 here. I'm doing about 50, and now I can see further again. I can pick my speed back up to 60, and that's what you've got to keep doing. You've got to keep getting the most out the speed limit whilst being safe. You can't dawdle at, say, 30 miles an hour the whole way. Slowing down now for the 30 sign. If you get a blind bend on a country road, it's not a bad idea to sound your horn before you go around it, so anyone coming the other way knows you're coming, particularly on single track roads where you're going to be head on with another car. My journey today doesn't include that, so I won't be able to demonstrate it. Again, a windy little bit of road here. I'm a little bit in the middle. I'm sort of straight lining it a little bit. I'm not taking a complete straight line, but I'm not making the same curve because I can see no one's coming the other way, and it's a narrow road, so it's a bit pointless. And as I say, it's just going to put me near the edge. There's a big dip there as well. I went completely in the middle of the road there because there's a really big dip on the left, and I don't want to go in there at 40 miles an hour. That's going to be quite violent, and hitting things like that at speed can make you lose control. All through this road I am using more than 50% when there's no one coming the other way, because I don't want to be driving permanently near the hedge. Now there's someone coming the other way, I'm going to try and use only 50% and give them the other 50%, and I slow down a little bit to do that too. Speeding up again now because I am in a 40. I was doing less than 40, so I'm going to try and get up to 40 when it's safe to. and I'm near 40 now, so that's good enough. Slowing down again for the bend, down into fourth gear I think for this bend, 30 miles an hour. This feels quite comfortable. I'm not like this, I'm not going like that on the seat. It's quite relaxing. Picking up my speed again now as I've got a nice straight and I can see far. Same person at the side of the road, obviously walking back now. I'm going to come out really early to keep my view past her and see down the road. I don't want to drive up to her and suddenly steer out. A, it's going to scare her. B, I had a better view when I was over to the right. And sometimes it is about your view when you're trying to do your position. You need to see further. So if that means you need to move a bit more to the right or a bit more to the left to see further, do so. Even if it means you're on the wrong side of the road. If you can see there's no one on the wrong side of the road, but moving over a bit helps you see, that can sometimes be worthwhile. And I've got a demonstration coming up soon which should illustrate that rather well. And this is what I mean. I can't see past the second post on the left. If I go a bit to the right, suddenly I can see there now, and that's good. I want to see the side. That could have been a driveway. There could have been someone walking there. And the same here, where the hedge comes to the right, then goes to the left again. I can't see any of the left. So I'm a little bit over to the right, just so I can see the left. I can see the two driveways now. And again, I would be able to see if someone was walking there. That makes it safer. Me being able to see the side makes it safer. I can't do it here though, because the bend's too sharp. I'm not going to do it on a blind bend because I can't see if anyone's coming the other way. I just slow down instead. Another national speed limit sign, currently doing around 30. So now I'm going to push the speed up to a comfortable speed for the road, which is a good road. It's a bit narrow, but it's very long. Got up to about 50. Feeling that's about right, to be honest. It's a bit bumpy as well. Coming off the gas a little bit for this bend, but I can see the hedges quite far, which means it's not too bendy, and it wasn't. It was only a little bend. Got down to about 44 there. Now I'm trying to make the most of that national speed limit again. Be careful of animals, especially at night time. They come out without you expecting it. There's not a lot you can do about it, to be honest. It is one of the risks of driving, but at night time there is a lot more animals roaming the roads. So I tend to drive slower at night time because I find if I'm doing a long journey at night time through country roads, there's always at least one animal, especially when I'm driving through Thetford Forest, and I have to do that quite a bit if I'm honest. And I don't like doing much than 40 through Thetford Forest, because at night time that is, there's always an animal that runs out in front of you. And you can see that's the case because there's roadkill all over the road as well. It's not just the animals running out in front of you, it's the animals that are already dead on the road. Sometimes they're quite big. And the car I normally drive when I go through Thetford, because I'm actually going to Cadwell Park, it's quite a small car, and I don't want to hit a deer in that thing, because I think although the car would come off better, the car wouldn't come off very well. Now I'm slowing right down because it's very narrow, look, and I've moved over to the side and I've basically stopped to let them through because it's wider here. And now I'm going to pick my speed up again and go through. I could fit through, I could squeeze through, but I mean, I don't know if you can see the quality of the road here, but I don't want to go more than about 5 miles an hour over this. It's very bumpy, big holes and a lot of mud, and mud is slippery. Do not underestimate how much longer it takes to stop when you're on mud. It's a lot worse than just wet. When it's wet, it takes about twice as long. But when there's mud on the road, depending on what sort of mud or how wet it is, you really don't know how long it's going to take you to stop. Here is another good example of when I would move to the right slightly to improve my view. I can't see anything past this pavement. This pavement ends and then there's a fence. I can't see the left, but I can see far on the right. So I move over to the right a little bit. Now I can see the side. I can see if anyone's pulling out from the road, or sorry, from the driveways, or if anyone's walking in the road, as there is no pavement. I could see no oncoming cars, so it's safe for me to move to the right. But if I couldn't see whether or not there was any oncoming cars, I wouldn't move to the right. I would just slow down, be more careful. Another thing I would like to mention is horses. You often get horses on these kinds of roads, and when you see a horse, you want to be quiet. So turn your stereo down if you're listening to loud music, keep your revs low, don't rev your engine, and stay back until you can see far. And the reason why you need to be able to see far before you pass them is because you're going to take a long time passing them and you're going to be quite wide and slow. So it's going to take you a long time, and you don't want the risk of a car coming the other way whilst you're passing that horse. I don't know if you've ever seen a startled horse. I have once, when there was a big like dumper truck passing a horse, and I was actually quite a bit further down the road in my little sports car, and I didn't have the roof on at the time, and I saw this horse going and I just thought, nope, stopped the car, did a 3-point turn and went back the other way. I thought, I'm not passing that horse like that without a roof in this little car. I mean, they weigh nearly a ton, don't they? They'd be like a car landing on top of you. If you're practicing without an instructor, make sure you have insurance. Get £20 off via the link in the description to Collingwood, who provides specialist learner insurance that allows you to practice in a friend or family member's car without risking their no claims bonus. If you want to insure your own car, click on the link to confused.com. I have found that they have the widest selection of cheap insurers for young drivers. If you think the video helps, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to get my future videos. I'm Richard, this is Conquer Driving, and until the next one, cheerio.